Thank you to Chaka Fattah for your leadership, especially on the issues of brain research that have the potential to change so many lives.
Especially Congressman Chaka Fattah, for whom this has been a life passion.
Well, welcome to the, this is the best show on television, and what we're going to focus on this week in this edition is we're going to talk a little bit about co-ops. Now, I have some legislation creating jobs through cooperatives, H.R. 2437. We got some guests here, Alan Knapp and Mary Alex Blanton. We're going to talk a little bit about what's happening with cooperatives. There are an eclectic group of organizations all across the country involved in healthcare and housing and food and in power, electrical co-ops. We have all kinds of organizations, real estate co-ops, doing great work. I visited a number of co-ops in my travels around the country, a healthcare co-op in New York City, and I visited a supermarket co-op out near Yale and New Haven. But I also have some of the best co-ops in the world right in Philadelphia. But we're going to talk a little bit about the legislation, which would create, for the first time, really a federal impulse to help provide technical assistance to get more cooperatives so that we can provide goods and services where they are not now presently being provided in communities that are underserved for a variety of different economic reasons. But the co-op model, which is a for-profit but owned by the members, is a very American way to address this problem. Co-ops have been around forever. You know, this legislation would provide about $25 million annually to provide the kind of assistance that are needed for communities to understand how to create co-ops, how to have them function effectively. So first, why don't you talk a little bit, Alan, about the work you do in your organization, and then we'll hear from Mary Alex, and then we'll get going.
That sounds great. Well, Congressman, thank you very much for the opportunity to join your program and talk a little bit about cooperatives, because, you know, I think they are misunderstood, you know, in terms of how they operate in the country, and you know, there's so many different cooperatives that touch so many people's lives every day, I think, and there's a branding issue, I think, at some point where some people, they may be co-ops, but they don't talk about themselves as cooperatives. So that's an opportunity for us. But the National Cooperative Business Association is the apex trade association based here in Washington, D.C. We also have a non-governmental organization. We do a lot of cooperative development abroad, mainly in Africa. But the NCBA and the CLUSA is the international part, but the NCBA part is really our domestic trade association, where we are really working a lot with the other sectors. Every cooperative has their own different sector, whether it's credit unions that handle financial issues. You have National Housing Cooperatives is another association. You have countless numbers of associations, but we are trying to bring those together to talk about a common theme and really to help kind of overcome that misunderstood concept about what the...
Well, if you go up 30,000 feet up there, I mean, co-ops are a big deal. I mean, $1 trillion in assets. We got,
they really are.
You know, many jobs that are being provided in communities, and some of the big operations that people don't think about really are co-ops. I mean, I'm a member of REI. But, you know, we have major insurance companies that are co-ops, credit unions that a lot of people interact with are cooperatives in their design. And what we want to do is to utilize this model and provide more information to communities, because so much more could be done to enhance the economic activity in communities. So where do you come into this picture at?
So thank you also for having me today. I'm from National Cooperative Bank, and we provide banking products and services to cooperatives nationwide, mainly focused on housing and commercial cooperatives. We were chartered by an act of Congress to help serve the underserved market at the time. So in 1978, we were chartered by an act of Congress. We privatized in 81. And we serve co-ops nationwide. We have 2,900 member owners of National Cooperative Bank, mainly focused on business co-ops and housing co-ops. So we have an office in New York City where majority of the housing co-ops are, and so we serve them with financial products, deposits, mortgages for unit owners and the building loans. But we also serve grocery, so we serve the food co-op sector, independent retailers, yes. So the ACE independent retailers, the True Value, the hardware, the independent franchise owners that may be members of purchasing co-ops, so they pool their powers together to get more economical goods and services for their members to have affordable prices. So we serve those sectors with financial products and services. So, and we also, along with NCBA, provide education and training. That's one of the co-op principles. So we feel it's our duty as a cooperative ourselves to live by the co-op principles of education and training. So we do a lot with educating people on the benefits of co-ops, the importance of co-ops. Every year we produce the Co-op 100 report in October, which lists the top 100 co-ops by revenue. Right. And every time everyone opens the report, I didn't know they were co-op. Oh, I shop there every day. My credit union. So it's all about education and just showing people that it's a large sector. It's a lot of revenue, a lot of employees, a lot of wages that come from the co-op sector. And like Alan said, it's education. You know, people don't learn about co-ops at colleges, at universities. So they get into the co-op by just maybe getting a job and then learning about it as they go. So we find that it's critical for the education component too. And
more people nowadays are wanting to take their own business into their own hands. Mm-hmm. They want to own their own businesses. They want to have a vote and a say in their own businesses. They're really growing, and I think that you know, we as an organization and the organizations we work with really need to do, and your bill goes a long way in that, in terms of how do you help promote those aspirations? How do you promote those desires to grow their own business, to meet their needs, their collective needs? And I think, you know, trying to find ways for development, for funding, are critical aspects, and something that we really need, you know, as a unit to really help work on. Well, this is
you know, I know there's going to be a major international conference in Quebec later on this year. I'm going to join in October. But for the viewers today, to understand the differentiation between, say, an employee-owned business and a co-op. In a co-op, you have members own it. Mm-hmm. Some are employees, some may not be employees, but the members own it, and they share in the profits. Mm-hmm. Correct. So I was out in New Hampshire, I mean in New Haven, they were trying to get a supermarket, hadn't had one for more than a decade in the city, and they went to every single supermarket chain in the country, could not attract anyone to come in, so they ended up creating a co-op, and they got 800 families to join as members. Right. And you know, and they were able to get going and build a supermarket and have full service, and that's what we're trying to communicate to people, that you don't have to be without goods or services. Right. That there's a way to take the economic energy in a community and bring it together and provide services out. In New York, I saw a home health care organization. That's a co-op providing services in the community on the healthcare side. So, you know, tell me about tell me a little bit about your deal flow. You're the banker for co-op. Right. So give me one of your more exciting deals that you've done. Well,
I mean, last year we provided actually a $30 million mortgage to Amalgamated Housing Co-op in the Bronx. They are the oldest limited equity housing co-op in the United States, formed in 1927 by the Amalgamated Workers Union. So these people wanted workforce housing. They couldn't afford to go, you know, live. Right. So they purchased a building together, they banded together, and they have been a successful limited equity housing co-op since 1927. It's a model that works, it's replicable, you can see it in other areas of the United States, but affordable housing is critical today. I mean, we're not just talking in rural markets, in urban markets where people can't travel 2 hours to go live. If they're a teacher and a police officer, they need to be able to afford where they live. So it's a great example of affordable housing that's critical today. We also we do food co-op financing, and we work heavily with the Food Co-op Initiative, which is a technical assistance provider for new startup co-ops.
Well, I think food co-ops are something where most people can identify.
Yep.
They've seen them in communities all across the country. We have a number of great food co-ops in my district, Weaver's Way, and others that have been around for a long time.
You have a housing co-op, I think we finance too, Warminster Heights, yes? So we finance that property as well, so another limited equity housing.
All right. Well, we want you to do more deals.
Absolutely.
Particularly in Pennsylvania, but across the country, actually.
Absolutely.
So now, these associations, it's really a grouping of associations. How many members do you have all together?
Boy, I'm saying we have, and I don't know the right numbers, but we are near 800 members, and we represent all different sectors. So we have on our board, we have folks from the National Rural Electric groups. We have worker cooperatives. We have food and ag cooperatives. Really, all of the different sectors, and they all do their own unique work. But what really binds them together are the cooperative principles, and they all share those in common. And they all share that goal to have all cooperatives live by them and breathe by them and operate.
Well, I'm hopeful that we can have a circumstance where the federal government can be even more supportive. Sometimes I think when people see either the Small Business Administration or some of the other financing instruments of the federal government, they're not normally knowledgeable about co-ops as a form of business.
Right.
And so sometimes the red tape can get in the way of assistance that otherwise would be available to businesses.
Right.
And we want to make sure that whether it's the whatever vehicle we're utilizing in the federal government, that it is it's open to the co-op movement, and that it helps create the kind of synergy that we need to support this job creation. That's why we named the bill Creating Jobs Through Cooperatives. So thank you so much for what you're doing.
Oh, that's great.
And we're going to have I think a real success legislatively, but we also want to build information so that you can have more deal flow than you can finance.
Absolutely. No, I mean, we get a lot of calls daily about, I'm looking to start a co-op, and it could be in the worker sector, the food sector, or the ag. Where do I go?
And likewise, we were working with a group of co-op professionals. These are mainly accountants, attorneys, CPAs that are interested in answering those questions. How do we reform our current business? It could be a business, a family business that's looking for succession planning, looking at how do co-ops, business model planning, taxation.
Well, we know
things like
when businesses are going through this process of succession that. If the business closes down or is sold, a lot of times we lose those jobs in the community.
That's true.
When it's sold to the employees, we know through empirical evidence that 98% of the time the jobs stay right in that community.
That's correct.
And that the seller, under our federal tax code, can get a capital gains benefit by selling to the employees. And if we can provide this information, we can create more opportunities to retain jobs and create more co-ops, and also the seller who's worked their entire life to build a business, can avoid that big capital gains tax on the federal government level. So, it can benefit all of the parties involved.
Right.
And that's part of what we have to do is provide more information to people. So thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much,
Let's continue to
Congressman.
work
Thank you very
together.
much for having
All
me.
right. Thank you. We'll keep building this movement.
Great.
Sounds good.
Okay. We're now going to take a minute and visit a co-op that's Weaver's Way. It's based in the northwest section of Philadelphia in the best congressional district in the country. And we're going to visit and see how it works. Take a look.
So it's about relationships, and it's about ownership, and it's about community. Welcome to the co-op. What's in that jar?
Air so far.
So air? What are you going to put in that jar?
Sunflower seeds.
Sunflower seeds.
Yeah.
So your mother
Yes.
has been a member for how many years?
was here when it began. She was part of the beginning.
And then you've been a member since you were.
Well, I came back to the city in '78.
'78, right. So I saw your son the other day up on. So the thing about co-ops is they support local economy. They support the community by giving back to the community. The product line is often local product or healthy products. I mean, we have Pepperidge Farm here. It has some high fructose corn syrup in it. It's kind of a local product, but also, you know, kids like it. So it's not like we're going to get rid of it. Some co-ops will say, no, you can't have that product. Some stores don't allow anything but organic. But we're in a marketplace that has a diverse population. If we were to do that, then we would become very exclusive to a certain level of economic ability, and we don't want to do that. Some co-ops are conventional product and organic and local. Most of the co-ops believe in supporting local businesses. So our $20 million a year, of that $20 million, we actually keep track of what is local. And for us, local is about a 150-mile radius. We have somebody on our staff who keeps track of finding suppliers who are local. And so we do about $6 to $7 million a year in local product. Whether it's breads, sushi, whether it's meats coming from a local farm, eggs coming from a local farm, health and beauty aids made locally here in Philadelphia, we will support them as much as possible to give them some shelf space. You will not see that in any grocery store that is trying to buy from a broadline distributor. So we have a combination here of local product, and we have local product, and we have some conventional, and we have some organic, all mixed in here. So this would be a conventional product that isn't local or anything like that, Brussels sprouts, but right next to it we could have an organic carrot. Over here we have what looks like local carrots and I think local parsnips.
The carrots are local and organic.
Oh, but the parsnips are not. All right. All of our apples right now, for most part, I'd say, what would you say, most of our apples are local?
All of our apples over here, yes, are local.
Are local. So they're coming from like 3 orchards. And you can go to a conventional grocery store in New York State in the middle of apple country, and you'll find that they'll have apples from Washington or Chile there. And it just doesn't make any sense. So sometimes we have to send a truck out to get it, and sometimes they'll bring it in, depending upon who we're dealing with. But the apples today's Thursday. What's the price of apples today?
99 cents a pound.
99 cents a pound for local, delicious apples. How about, what do we have, about 12 different varieties today?
We have, I think, 8 different varieties right now, and we'll be getting more later today.
So we may have as many as 14 or 16 different varieties of apples here, all local. And Wednesdays and Thursdays, it's 99 cents a pound. It is by far the lowest price in the city, or even in the state for local apples. So it's a loss leader for us, maybe. We even still make a little bit of money on it. But we do that because we want people to buy these. These are local, and it's a great product. So she lives right down the street, and is a real foodie, and will let us know when we don't have the right stuff. When you talk about customers and what they can ask, and owners.
You tell them how long I've been a member.
How do you tell them?
30 years.
30 years.
And I moved to the block. Partly because I knew the store was there. Yeah, it's great. It's like this is your refrigerator. You don't have to even buy everything all the time. Easy.
So one of the things that happens is that our national group has done studies that show when a co-op opens up in a community that's owned by the community, the real estate prices will come up. Substantially, not just small, but they will substantially go up. So one thing that's interesting about co-ops is that the ownership is the membership that runs the store. And how do they run it? They run it by electing a board of directors. As opposed to picking a board, as you would see in a nonprofit, co-ops actually elect their boards to represent them. And at Weaver's Way, we have anywhere from 9 to 11 people on our board. Nathia is actually on the board and also my boss, therefore, and elected by the members. And so this is Nathia Lee, who's one of the board members, and also the committee chair for our Food Justice Committee.
Well, it's a real privilege for me to be part of the Weavers Way board. I get to work with some of the smartest people that I've ever worked with, and we really take our responsibility really quite seriously. As board members, we have we govern the organization. We're not an operational board, so we set policies that Glenn and his remarkable staff actually have to adhere to. And the policies go from everything from ensuring that Weavers Way is a welcoming environment to making sure that it's a profitable operation. Weavers Way is a hub in this community, in the Northwest community, and so we take that quite seriously as well, and so we create opportunities for the members to become engaged in the work of Weavers Way, but in the fun of Weavers Way. For example, we have Vegan Fest coming up in another week and a half, and just on Tuesday, Earth Day, we have an event that we're doing. We're showing a film and having happy hour at one of the local eateries. I'm also the founder and one of the co-organizers of Weavers Way Food Justice Committee. And the Food Justice Committee has a mission to, one, see what we can do to ensure that Weavers Way is accessible to people of all income levels, and so we're looking at how we can make it more accessible for lower income individuals and households. And we're also looking at ways that we can be advocates and activists to help end hunger throughout Philadelphia, but concentrating in the Northwest Philadelphia area. So all of this is part of what it means to be a member at Weavers Way. You know, it's not just dropping your $30 a year or your $400 equity, but it's really about being engaged, an engaged member of the community.
I'm an owner-operator. My name is Karen, and I come here to do my work hours, and for that I get a 5% discount, but I also just enjoy it. I've always liked it. And when I have a whole bunch of them, I will put them over on the shelf. And they tell us things like rotate the stock, and we have clean hand practice, and so even though I only work here 6 hours a year, I have good awareness of what makes things safe and healthy for people.
Well, one of the things that makes Weavers Way different than perhaps other grocery stores is that it's very important that we pay all of our staff a living wage. And so the folks, the associates that you find here, the cooperators that you find working here, some may be member volunteers, but those who are on staff are actually paid enough that they can pay their bills, they can have a life, and they get health insurance and other benefits that you won't necessarily find in a typical grocery store. And as a board member, as a co-op member, that means a lot to me, because that shows that there's this human-centered focus to what we do here.
So as a manager, so our job, staff level, is to listen to what the board has said and then make that happen. And so we'll look at the health plan, we'll look at how we can pay people starting wages of $10 an hour. We're going to increase that to $10.50. And that was determined not by me or by the board. That was determined by a group of staff and managers getting together and determining how much can the co-op afford to increase the starting wages here. And they picked the $10.50 level. Our CFO was also at the meeting and gave them some, gave them the numbers, but we engaged both staff, all the staff in that. I did not attend those meetings. And we try and get people on health insurance. We try and get people on health insurance, dental insurance, a 401k that we match at 35 cents on the dollar. We also do some matching with the city on getting people into first home buyers program. Margie, in fact, was one of those first ones we had, and we're really proud of that. That makes the cost of the food maybe a little bit more, but that is what makes to investing in the community, that really works, because people make a little bit more money, they'll pay a little bit more, and they'll buy something here as opposed to being at a Walmart or another store where they also have to be on health on state aid. The difference is, and I worked in the corporate world for many years, is that the people you're serving here are the owners for the most part. And so if you look down the line over here, it's the owners who are shopping with here who own the place, and the workers who are here are also owners. And since we also have people volunteering to work here and they get a 5% discount if they do 6 hours of labor once a year, then they start getting to know people. So the woman who's right there, she's a physician, and she's working in the deli, and she's a cooperator, and she now has a relationship with the worker, not just as a server, but as somebody she's working with. So you have a doctor who's an internist working with our deli manager, who is also a very well high-trained chef and just loves working here. And so we have a relationship. There's the Yellow Springs Farm, right, Margie? All right. Margie's our cheese buyer and also a chef. Another local cheese, wonderful cheese. And so all of this is, for the most part, is either local or imported French and Italian cheeses here. When we renovated the store about a year ago, one of the things we were concerned about is opening it up too much a little bit. So we made it tight still so people would bump into each other. So we want people to bump into each other. It's our #1 complaint, but it's also one of the reasons that people bump into each other. They'll have conversations here in the aisles, things like that. You don't find that in most places. The way that Weaver's Way started was as a buying club. Conventional produce and saving about 50% on your produce. That was all volunteers. But I would say to any community that's interested in starting a co-op that there are people out there to help them. There's the National Cooperative Grocers Association. They can email us and we'll help contact them, bring them together with somebody. And a number of our board members will actually go out in the local area and will actually meet with community groups. We've had anywhere from up to 200 people show up at a meeting over in Elkins Park 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and now they have a store. We've been down in South Philadelphia, out in Ambler, up in Narberth, and all over the region here. Collingswood, New Jersey. I know that's not Pennsylvania, but it's still a local place, and we'll try and help as much as we can.
Well, I would say pretty much what I told my 5-year-old granddaughter when I brought her to the co-op, to both stores. We own this. This is an opportunity for individuals, just ordinary people, to really have an ownership stake in their community. Weaver's Way contributes to the community on so many levels. Economically, we put a lot of money into the community, but also just in terms of bring a sense of shared responsibility in cooperative economics. And I think that all of those values are very important, especially in this day and age when people can feel so alienated and disconnected from the members of their community. I think cooperatives bring that, and every co-op will be different because it will reflect that community.
We look forward to you joining us for the next episode of Capital Idea. But thank you for being with us today. And I want to thank especially Glenn Berman from Weaver's Way for his assistance in showing us the way around a real co-op. Thank you and have a great day.